Hey everyone, Tim Schofield here from CubeKing77.com, here to do a full review on the HTC One A9. And when I bought this device, I pre-ordered it and it was $400. Since then, the price has gone up to $500, which kind of hits that point. Not quite a flagship, not quite a budget device. So just kind of keep that in mind while we go through the full review. As always, I want to start with design of the HTC One A9, and next to it is the M9 for reference. Now on the back, it is completely flat as opposed to the curved back that was on the M7, M8, and M9. Now you'll also notice the camera got bumped up to the top of the device as opposed to right here, and that LED flash switched sides. Both the M9 and A9 have 5-inch displays, and you'll see the height of them is just about the exact same. Now, I forgave the M9 for the height because of their boom sound stereo front-facing speakers, which are excellent, and also seem to be a signature of HTC. And they've gone a different route with this one. They've gotten rid of those front-facing speakers and thrown in a fingerprint scanner down at the bottom to unlock the device. However, they still kept the HTC logo on the bottom as well. Now, if you're wondering, the speaker got thrown down to the bottom. Now, looking at the bottom of the device on the left, you'll see that speaker grill, and it doesn't really get that loud, and sound quality is just average. So, a bit of a bummer now. That's definitely a downgrade from the M9. You also notice the headphone jack, which is very good. The sound quality produced out of it on high-end headphones are really good. And then you also see the charging slot. You'll also notice it's a little off-center of the charging slot, which looks a little weird when it's plugged in. Not a big deal, just a little strange design choice. Now taking a look on the left side, you have SIM card slot and a micro SD card slot up to 2 terabytes supported, which is awesome. And then flipping it over on the right side, you have 2 volume rockers and a power button, which has a definite different texture, and it's very easy to differentiate the two. I had no trouble deciding which button I was going to press. And then here's just a closer look at the bottom with that fingerprint scanner, a pretty big chin down at the bottom, and then up the top, that 4 ultra pixel front-facing camera and earpiece as well. Also up at the top, you have a little LED notification light, which is always a great addition to any device. So I want to talk about that fingerprint scanner, and right away, it works really well. It's very accurate, it's very quick. Even with the display off, it will wake the display and unlock the device as well. If you use a finger, it will act as a capacitive button and wake that display so you can unlock it and use your pattern, or you can just drop a fingerprint on there to unlock it. And yes, I did say it's a capacitive button, so it does act as a home button, which can get a little confusing considering there are 2 home buttons. You can shut that feature off. I honestly just wish they would have added capacitive buttons down at the bottom and used a little more screen real estate instead of having on-screen buttons. Another little strange thing is when you press and hold on the fingerprint scanner, it does not activate now on tap. Pressing and holding that soft button actually does activate it. One thing I want to make note of is placement of that fingerprint scanner. I wish it was a little higher up. When you're holding it, you really don't want to be pushing the bottom of the device. It's just a little uncomfortable. I wish it was just a little bit higher up. The A9 has a 1080p 5-inch display, and also what's different about it is now uses AMOLED as opposed to LCD. Personal preference, I prefer AMOLED, so I definitely like this over the LCD 1080p display on the M9. However, it's just a pretty average AMOLED display. It's not as good as the 1080p AMOLED displays that are on Samsung devices, and like I said, it's only 1080p as opposed to 1440, which is the new flagship standard. In display settings, you have an option to change your color profile. I've stuck with AMOLED the whole time. I preferred it over the other 3, sRGB, colder, and warmer. It's always nice to have options. You might have a different personal preference. And when it comes down to it, colors look good. It's just a pretty good display. It's a nice 1080p display. Honestly, I'm pretty happy they use 1080p instead of 1440p. I'll get to that when it comes to battery life. But yeah, you're going to be pleased with this display. Nothing really to complain about when it comes down to it. Moving on to battery life, here's what it looks like while it's charging, plugged in. You'll see it's just a little bit off-center, just a little strange one to show that off. Now, it does have a 2150 milliamp hour battery. And here's just a look at what I got for screen on time. I want to say every day, I just about needed to charge it towards the end. I couldn't necessarily get through a full day. This was probably my best day, 3 hours and a half screen on time. 2 hours and 45 minutes, 3 hours and 12 minutes, 2 hours and 45 minutes, 3 hours and 17 minutes. So I got an average of about 3 hours and 10 minutes screen on time, which really isn't that good, honestly. Luckily, it has Quick Charge 2.0, and it will be updated to Quick Charge 3.0 in a future software update, which helps with charging because you are going to need to charge it throughout the day. Let's move on to that 13 megapixel camera with optical image stabilization. Shutter speed's very good. It does take a little bit longer than I'd like to focus. Nothing too bad, though, and this is definitely the best camera I've used from HTC yet. It is better than the HTC One N9, Very good job, HTC. It's not quite as good as maybe an LG flagship, a Samsung flagship, etc., but it's still above average when it comes down to it, and you'll be happy with it. So you have different modes. Selfie with that 4 ultra pixel camera. You'll be happy with the front-facing camera as well. I don't take too many selfies. Pro mode is great. Raw capturing. Change all of your manual controls, exposure, ISO, all that good stuff. You have a panorama, a new hyperlapse mode, which you can change to. I'll show that off, which kind of does a time lapse for you. Here's just me real quick walking through. It just stitches it together. It goes really fast. You can change the speed. It looks pretty good. Overall, I don't know how much I'm going to use this, but it's nice to be added to the repertoire, I guess, of their video options. Panorama, slow motion, camera, and pro as well. When it comes to recording video, you only have 1920 by 1080 as an option. It's nice you have a quick button right here to start recording video as well. Moving on to a couple pictures that I took. Here's one in good lighting situation. It does get a little blurry when you start to zoom in, which wouldn't necessarily happen with maybe an S6 G4 camera, for example. Swiping over, here's a lower light picture that I took. And it looks really good. Optical image stabilization definitely helps with that. And like I said, the A9 has the best HTC camera I've seen yet. Still not up there to flagship devices. Hopefully in the future it does get improved. When it comes to performance, the A9 has a Snapdragon 617 processor coupled with 3 gigabytes of RAM. And to be honest, when you are doing basic tasks, this thing flies. If you don't have a lot open at once and you're just trying to respond to a message or open up your email real quick, it goes really quick. However, when you do something while apps are running, for example, when I have maps running in the background, you'll see the carousel just kind of gets jittery and stutters, and that happens when you have a lot running at once. I've also noticed that some apps load a little bit longer than usual, than I'm used to, at least on higher end devices. And when it comes to high-end gaming, it does a good job. You do get occasional stutter here and there, which probably shouldn't happen. It does happen though. And then when it comes to multitasking while high-end gaming, it does a lot better than, for example, if you have maps open. However, like I said, some apps do take a little bit longer than usual to load up. But as I'm running through right now, it seems to be going just fine. If I hit resume here, it loads that game right up. So that's when it's doing high-end gaming. But if you have a lot of apps open at once, you might want to reconsider opening a lot at once because it does get a little slow at times. Out of the box, the HTC One A9 runs Android 6.0 Marshmallow, which is a pretty big deal. I believe it was the first one to run Android 6.0 Marshmallow, which is really nice. I believe Sense on Marshmallow is probably my favorite so far. It's not quite there yet, but it is much improved from Lollipop. In terms of the launcher, very similar. You have Blink feed over on the left where you can kind of customize what shows up if you want to see news, if you want to see your Facebook feed, Google+, Instagram. You have a lot of customizations to make over there. You can pinch in and you can add widgets. You have apps and shortcuts as well. You can swipe through. You can scroll through your pages right up here. One notable widget that HTC includes is one where you can customize what shows up when you're out, home, or at work as well. The app drawer consists of vertical scrolling pages, so not continuous scrolling like the Google Now launcher. Also, I want you to make note of how responsive it is when I'm actually opening apps. There's not a lot of animation to it. It just very quickly opens it, which has been great with Sense, aside from those performance issues I touched on earlier, but it's very responsive, like I said, when doing basic tasks. HTC has decided to slim down Sense and make it more similar to stock Android. For example, they have included the carousel as opposed to the other recent apps button that they had before. There's also an added clear all button, which they've included. Swiping down from the top, and again, you'll get essentially the stock look to the pull down bar. They have shortcuts for fingerprint scanner, flashlight, your battery saver, your do not disturb as well. You can quickly go into settings, and settings is themed a little bit differently. One nice addition is personalize, where you can change various aspects. You see you have entire themes that you can change. You have your creations, your collection. So here's just a look at a bunch of the different themes that they have. Also, accent colors is nice. You have, you can customize it to your liking. I have tilt on at the moment, which kind of changes the amount of accents that are on it. The A9 has gestures as well that are included. So motion launch gestures, double tap to wake up and sleep, which works about 90% of the time. It's not as accurate as the M9 was when I double tap it to wake it up. Swipe up to unlock, swipe left to go to home screen, swipe right to launch blink feed, and volume button to launch camera as well. Now to show those off, if I want to go ahead and double tap to wake, you'll see it work that time. On the lock screen, you can double tap to sleep. However, if you have the device unlocked and you're on the launcher, you cannot double tap to sleep anymore. Another gesture was swiping from the left to launch Blink Feed. Of course, you will need to put in your password if you have one set, but it went right to Blink Feed. With the device being on Marshmallow, there are app permissions, separate ones. So if we go ahead and go into the camera app, and we go to permissions, and you'll see it asks for camera, location, microphone, and storage. You can set which ones each app can be allowed to use. There's also a memory tab where you can determine how much RAM is being used and how much each app is specifically using as well. When it comes down to it, I do like Sense. I like their added gestures, and it is definitely slimmed down from previously. I hope they continue to do so and continue to slim it down even more in the future. Okay, just want to recap and get some final thoughts on the HTC One A9. I'm glad they stuck with that metal unibody design. I do miss those boom sound speakers. However, when it comes down to it, the camera is definitely going in the right direction. You will be happy with the camera. However, you won't necessarily be happy with the performance if you do a lot of high-end gaming, high-end multitasking, and also that battery life is just a little upsetting. At that $400 price point that I got it for, I might consider recommending it, but at $500, I just think that's too high. They need to lower that price for what you get with this device. But anyways, let me know what you think. If you have an A9, let me know if you like it or not. Leave a comment below. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Google+. Please subscribe to me if you like this video. Hopefully you did. Give it a thumbs up. But anyways, thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it.